What is going on, everyone? My name is Jared Haas, and welcome into NASCAR Mailbox, where I answer your questions. Let's get into it from our own Frontstretch's Steven Stump for the first question.
Hey Jared, Steven Stump here. The big news today was that all of the schedules for the 2024 season were officially announced. There were no other major announcements in terms of new tracks. Iowa was the only addition, but there were lots of dates shuffling, season shuffling, a lot of rumors that turned out not to be true. But my question for you is, what are your thoughts on the 2024 schedules? What do you like? What do you not like? And what are you left wondering?
Finally, we have a 2024 schedule. Even though we're into October, NASCAR has announced today on October 4th the schedule for all three series. And, there's some, the good and the bad, and some things I'm just wondering what is going on with NASCAR. A couple things that I like on this situation. First, Bristol's back on concrete. I think that's going to do well as more of a marquee event. The springtime Bristol concrete race. I'm hoping that this transitions well to the fans, but I will get to that point a little bit. I like Bristol on concrete. The Indianapolis road course is no more. We're going back to the oval. And the part I like about that the most is that it's back in July. It is not stuck into preseason football that really tampered the ratings that NASCAR had for that race, which was a marquee event that was getting a couple, 4 to 5 million TV viewers, which was now with the road course was only maybe getting half of that TV viewership. So hopefully they change to the oval and to back on Plus NBC, and also being back in July will help the TV ratings. People will show up more to that event. So I think that's hopeful for Indianapolis. Their future still goes on. Also, too, Watkins Glen, I like to make note, that is in the playoffs. I think that's a good thing considering the fact that in 2020 they were axed off the schedule due to the COVID-19 restrictions that New York had on the state. So it was a kind of a redeeming quality during these uncertain times. So Watkins Glen gets a playoff race, kind of more in line with the season too, of having a couple road courses in the postseason with that and the ROVAL. Also, Darlington Raceway as the finale for the Cup Series. I enjoy that fact as this is, still a track that is not going to be a cakewalk to get into. Obviously, people like the uncertainty of Daytona. I think this puts a little bit more in the driver's hands trying to get into the playoffs, not just leaving up to chance and to the super speedway gods of saying who gets in and who gets not. So that was a good move to keep it on Labor Day, to keep it the season finale. It'd be interesting to note if Throwback Weekend is going to happen that weekend or is going to happen this spring. The things that I dislike is the weather that some of these places are going to have to deal with. You have Atlanta coming into February, which if you put it into March, the average degree temperature rises about 8 degrees, which would make a difference, especially when the race gets a little bit later on. I wish it'd start Daytona, and then you go to the West Coast swing of Phoenix, Las Vegas, and then come back to Atlanta. I get the reasoning why they want to have a super speedway race followed by another super speedway race, but the variety of NASCAR, which draws partly some fans in, and having back-to-back, I don't think it's going to be the biggest selling point as they think. Also, too, Nashville's back, and they're starting the Cup race at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That needs to be a night race or back earlier in the season. Nashville definitely gets hot during the day, and I don't think it doesn't situate well when you're running in midday afternoon type of race. So Nashville, you could probably move that earlier in the schedule. I think that would have been fine. And also, less standalone races. There's only 3 events that are standalone. One for the Xfinity Series going up to Portland, and then you have the trucks in IRP, which is pretty close to Indianapolis, and going up to Milwaukee. Very sad to see that Road America is not on the schedule. They packed that place pretty good. I don't think they had a touring series to complement the Xfinity Series, but they had up there. They couldn't reach an agreement for that. which is a shame for that track. Definitely was a beautiful track when I was covering the race this summer. But I'm wondering a couple of things. First and foremost, ROVAL is back. Seemed like there was stipulation that this was going to be the end of the ROVAL course, and I was thinking more going back if Charlotte's put on a good event, and if you're trying to draw in fans of saying, hey, you need to go to the Coca-Cola 600, if that product's working well, why not make 2 events of it, right? I've been a big proponent of turning Texas Motor Speedway into the Toval, but I think Charlotte can still... I'm fine with having 2 ovals for the Charlotte track. The other things, the international race, I'm curious to note that they were probably more hooked up on trying to get a second series in there. NASCAR, with the Chicago Street Course, they got the Xfinity Series at the Chicago Street Course as well, as long with the Cup Series. I don't think they're going to take that adventure without another supporting series to be up there. But it looks like that was probably, I would guess, more of that hookup. They could probably, with that type of purses that the Cup Series has, but a little bit more questionable with the Xfinity Series. I mean, even if you look back in Montreal when they made that run, purses were cut over a half from the inaugural event to 2007 to 2012. So the international races, I think the hookup there is mainly getting the lower series, support series, enough money to make it financial sense. But also, too, one other note is the Olympic break. I think it's going to be more a question now. I'm okay with breaks. It's kind of weird having 2 back-to-back, but it seems like now we're going to take break for this and take break for that. We're more fitting around the schedule of what's going on instead of making our own schedule. Curious to note if this is going to carry over into next season when there's not an Olympics and say, oh, that actually worked well, so we're going to take a couple weeks off for the first few seasons of the first 2 weeks of NFL. Be interesting to note to see how that transpires, but that's what I'm wondering about that schedule, and that's also what I like and dislike about it. This next question is asked by American Walmart 3565. They ask, is 2311 going to make it into the round of 8? Now, if you look at the playoff standings, the 2311 cars of both Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace are sitting outside the playoffs cut line going into the ROVAL. And the tough thing about this is if you're going to have one driver that's going to get in, you're going to have one driver to get out. And you have some tough, heavy hitters like Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, who's won last year, has a pretty good, comfortable margin. The driver that I'm really concerned about on the cut line is only +2 is Brad Keselowski. A lot of things can happen in the ROVAL, and Reddick has a lot better track record compared to Brad Keselowski. Tyler Reddick has not finished here worse than 12th, and Keselowski last year finished in 14th. So I think Reddick can get into the round of 8, keep the hopes alive for 2311 Racing with his road course prowess. He's already won at Circuit of the Americas this year. So it's going to be tough, really tough for Bubba Wallace to get into those playoffs. Again, it's going to be stage points that's going to really secure his fate. He didn't really perform as well as he needed to make himself comfortable into the next race after what happened at Talladega, but I see at least one of the 2311 Racing cars advancing to the next round. Thank you very much for watching this video. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. That really helps out our channel as well. And make sure to tune in next week for another edition for NASCAR Mailbox. Until then, as always, make sure to have a great race weekend.
This is Blaine Perkins, driver of the number 9 Raceline Wheels CR7 Motorsports Chevy. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also check out one of those 2 videos beside me. Visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.